Greetings, humans. Zbot4096 here, reviewing Wicked. This review is also part 2 of our discussion of Glicked, the counter-program duo of Gladiator 2 and Wicked, releasing in theaters to straddle the Thanksgiving weekend, forming the spiritual sequel to last summer's Barbenheimer. Now, in our Gladiator 2 review, we posited that the big question here is, which is the better film? Well, we're no longer sure that's the right question. Now, we'll still answer it, because we said we would, but that will need context as well. Now, before we go there, let's just talk about Wicked, which is actually Wicked Part 1. That's something we did not realize until Beep 2077 told us on the way to the theater. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. After all, Dune Part 1 was the best human film we had seen in years. But this information isn't evident from the poster for Wicked, and that is largely the extent of what marketing we allow ourselves contact with. So maybe it's on us that we were not aware of the fractional status of the film? Or did you all not realize that either? Let us know so that we can have some resolution on that point before we perform the final Zogplex version of the review. Anyway, we did have some understanding of the setting of the film, what it would be. Naturally, we have seen 1939's The Wizard of Oz, a true human masterpiece, and this Wizard of Oz, amazing interior art as well, and 1985's Return to Oz in this standard plastic case. And it's, still a surprisingly daring and endearing sequel, if not nightmare-inducing on some level. But this new film is something different. It is based on a hit musical stage play that debuted in 2003, which is in turn based on a book written in 1995. Now, the iconic key art of the play shows the good witch whispering in the ear of the wicked witch, who is smirking, implying they are friends, gossiping about something. Now, this is intriguing, since at a glance, it conveys a whole world of nuance relative to the black and white setup we are all familiar with. Now, besides that, we had no additional knowledge of the book, the play, the music, and now the film. And per our standard operating procedure, we had not seen the trailer. In fact, we knew so little about the film that we didn't even know who made it, or who was in it, or what any other background might be on the film. So let's quickly cover who the people are. The film was made by John Chu, who directed Crazy Rich Asians, which we enjoyed quite a bit, as he also made the Step Up musical movies, which we haven't seen. Now, that 1995 novel was written by Gregory Maguire, which was then adapted into that 2003 stage musical by Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holtzman, the latter of whom returns as the writer on the new film. Now, that stage musical is a phenomenon, returning to the stage for multiple runs since its debut, breaking box office and attendance records. In terms of seats sold on Broadway, Wicked is number 10 of all time. So the stage musical is very popular, both the performance and the music, and it really resonates with a fan audience. To us, this reminds us of a Marvel or DC situation where the content is proven with an audience at least twice before the current film version comes out. So it's somewhat like that old galactic favorite treat, General Zog's twice fried space chicken. So there should be something tasty here. Now, we'll share our experience of watching the film, our reactions at a high level to the movement of the story and characters, as opposed to a detailed, spoilery play-by-play. Not that we would do that, but we observe sometimes humans take that approach in describing a film. So, with that framing, the film starts with a rush, reminding us of the high stakes in Oz. However, the rest of the first act seems somewhat off and a kind of particle board pastiche of fairy tale tropes. The world feels more like Narnia, with a variety of sentient animals interacting with and around light fantasy caricatures of folksy humans. Now, the story and main characters start with a bit of Cinderella childhood trauma, which then moves into a Hogwarts meets Wednesday boarding school sequence with a Mean Girls through line. Now, it didn't help that the overall quality of the projection looked washed out and very low contrast to us, matching the blandness of the film's first act. Now, this may again have something to do with us, in that we do not have the ability to resolve the color green in the human visible spectrum. Now, ultraviolet and infrared, we are all over. But given the relevance of the color green in the story, we fear that much of the use of color in the storytelling is potentially lost on us, and our inability to see a color that is used as a central visual theme may be impacting our overall perception of the color gamut of the film. Unless others, again, have a similar reaction, which would be helpful to us to know. Anyway, then something peculiar happens. The story starts to feel alive. The setting itself, despite depicting a fantastical world, feels like it is actually filmed, much like our perception watching Middle-earth unfold in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but not the Hobbit trilogy. Whether a combination of set building, miniature photography, or digital effects produced with correct depth of field focus, what we see looks like the real Oz. And then the people in the world spring to life. The dance numbers! Oh, the dance numbers are a dazzling display of human talent, of writing, of singing, of choreography, of acting, of set design, of cinematography. Oh, the sharp poses and movements are so coordinated, so joyful, that we find ourselves letting go of our usual detail tracking, heads-up display approach to things and simply going with the flow of what we see. Now, it's not just the dance scenes, it's the dramatic scenes start to sparkle as the archetypal characters draw us in. Now, at first, their single-note behaviors made us cringe, but now we're starting to cause chuckles to escape from us, especially the farcical antics of Galinda. And now that we were softened up a bit, we were ready to accept that the previously cardboard cutouts were popping out into 2- and 3-dimensional characters and characteristics that had consequences, regrets, and changes that broke bonds and forged new ones. And then, when we least expected it, the film reveals a carefully laid out fable about otherness. Not just the otherness of the main character, but the empathy she shows for a whole class of others. In the greatest tradition of 20th century political satire, we see L. Frank Baum's Oz illuminated by the piercing glare of George Orwell's allegorical spotlight. We see the fear-mongering and corruption of the state by demagogues from history and from fiction, or the blend of the two satire brought to Technicolor life, in a way few films would dare. Now, mind you, we are not calling the film a polemic. Nobody wants to be lectured to, and that wouldn't even work. But the film is not doing that. Instead, the film aims for you to feel what the protagonists feel. It puts you in the ruby slippers, metaphorically, and gently lays it all out for you. And, unbidden, you question what you believe you know, what you think is the truth of the stories that animate who you are. Gradually, fleetingly, we change from questioning the film we are watching and question the film we have seen in the past. The first story we were told about this world. And we do it through the lens of the relationship between the two main characters and the forces that influence them. The aforementioned Galinda, who will later come to be known as Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, and Elphaba, who we will later know as the Wicked Witch of the West. Galinda is played by Ariana Grande, which we didn't know until Beep told us after seeing the movie. We generally do not listen to or ingest current pop earth music. We are strictly focused on visual media in the rectangular format. This is our swim lane. So we did not recognize her. Instead, we were curious. Who is this surprising new talented actor who can present as shallow, as comical, and substantive, dialing each element backwards and forwards through the story? And similarly, we had no context for the star of the film, Cynthia Erivo, who plays Elphaba. She is, in fact, a Tony Award-winning star of the stage who performed in the stage revival of The Color Purple and as Harriet Tubman in the film Harriet. And we were astonished by her performance. Like her co-star, she reveals slowly over the course of the film, presenting as one archetype, in her instance, of the rageful other, but also showing a creative and direct expression flair before coming full circle with finding her true north in empathizing with another class of others as well as her competitors. Now, this burst of storytelling happens in tandem with a dazzling combination of a musical dance number and a thrilling full-scale fantasy action sequence. This extraordinary combination of emotional levers were astounding to experience. Beep, sitting next to us, was experiencing optical fluid accumulation, and the carbon fiber follicles on our arms and back and neck were standing upright through the finale of the film. And despite being a part one, this sequence delivers a transformation that credibly shows a full arc for Elphaba and for Glinda. You know, we have enough story to be left with some sense of understanding of the beings we have spent the last 2.5 hours with. But at the same time, we are eagerly anticipating when this part 2 will come out. Where's the part 2? As these thoughts were bounding around in our head, the credits rolled and the audience applauded. Oof, by all the stars. This film was not at all what we expected. It was not what we expected even as we were watching the first act. It is a delight and a revelation of both the tenderness of connection and the power of being true to oneself. We therefore render Wicked Part 1 our highest rating. Now, we did promise some discussion about the Glicked head-to-head matchup. And if you saw our Gladiator 2 review, you may recall that we gave it our high rating, which sounds lower than our highest rating. And so by doing that reductionist logic, yes, we did prefer Wicked Part 1 to Gladiator 2. However, we will note that our bar was extremely high for Gladiator 2, while we had insufficient data to establish a bar before seeing Wicked. And we do live in a galaxy where everything doesn't have to be ranked, which is part of the reason our ratings are not on a number or letter scale, but simply we use throwaway language so that you, the audience, can make up your own mind without being steered by anything as imprecise as assigning a number to a story. So, if we reject the idea of calling a winner, we will instead use the Glicked moment to declare a ship. Yes, that's right, a relationship. We can absolutely see Mr. Gladiator and Ms. Elphaba connecting on a deep level about family trauma, about pushing back on systemic injustice, on the unreliability of mentors, of finding alliances among enemies, of soaring choral music swelling around you when you do something interesting. Huh? We have so much in common, they would say to each other. Now, these two kids may be from different sides of reality, but if we allow them to meet at the bar in the foyer of the cinema where their films are playing, if the dream of Rome can intersect with the love of Oz, then we all have a chance to care, to love, through the unexpected connection. And so concludes this human version of our review. If you have feedback on it, please write in your own comments so that we can upload the galactic version to Zogplex. Now, you can expect more discussion and reviews of theatrical movies, streaming shows, and 4K home video releases as we continue to engage with your human rectangular content. So, please watch, like, subscribe, and comment so that we can continue to have the human voice reflected in the cosmos. How do you like that rakish tilt? There we go. Perfect. Until next time, farewell, humans.